Hi, everybody. Welcome to Stamping with Melva. I'm Melva Peters, and I'm an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator in British Columbia, Canada. Welcome to my YouTube channel, and welcome to my video today. I want to thank you for finding me. So if it's the first time you've actually watched one of my videos, thank you very much for finding me. And if it's not the first time, welcome back. I hope you have taken the time, in either case, to subscribe to my YouTube channel so you'll get notified when I do videos like this one or when I go live, which I do about 3 days a week, showing you different techniques and cards that you can make. So today I want to share with you a card that I made using the Daisy Garden stamp set. So this is a background stamp set that is available in the Stampin' Up! Annual catalog. And I just really love it. I love using background stamps either as a background for a card or the focal point for a card. And there's all sorts of ways that you can use them. This one, I've decided just to make the stamp the focus of the card because it really is the star of the show. And I'm going to show it off in Fresh Freesia, which is one of the new in colors for this year from Stampin' Up! So let me switch over to my desktop and I'll show you how I made this card. Okay, so here's my card. So again, I've made it using Fresh Freesia, and I've cut a piece of thick basic white cardstock as the card base. I'm using the scalloped contour dies, which are these beautiful rectangle dies, all with different scalloped edges. So I've cut one using the largest die in Fresh Freesia. Then I've stamped on basic white with the Daisy Garden stamp set and cut it out using the second largest die. So let me show you the Daisy Garden stamp set. As I said, it's a background stamp. It's beautiful. So you can color it. You can just use it as a background like I've done, but it's a very big stamp. So I'm going to use my Stamparatus because I have a hard time with the really large block trying to control it. So I just find the Stamparatus easy. And on this one, and I just realized that I forgot to bring over the tailor-made tag dies. So I'm just going to quickly grab those. Always forget something. There they are. Okay, so I've got those. So I've stamped the sentiment on the smallest of the tailor-made tag dies. These are a great set of dies. They're all out of order. They're a great set of dies, all tags that you can make. There are two different shapes to them. One has this kind of squared off top, and then one with a more detailed top. I think I'm going to use the one with the squared off top. And then the really cool thing, what I like the most, well, not the most, but I like it a lot, is these are, if you remember reinforcements when you were in school, we used to use them on loose leaf, and apparently they're still used today, but we had to lick them and put them onto the holes in our loose leaf sheets so that they didn't pull out of our binders. I'm dating myself for sure, but that's what we used. And we used to have to lick them and they tasted awful, but apparently now they're self-adhesive and not nearly quite so bad to use. All right, so then that's what my sentiment is. I've got a piece of the open weave ribbon that I've cut, and I'll show you how I made this. And I'm going to have to do this a little differently because I am completely out of the white twine, baker's twine. And then I've colored some pearls. Now, this card is being shown today as part of the Festive Fridays challenge that I participate in. I'm part of the design team. And this card, the challenge is always to use 3 items from the inspiration list. And the festivity that we're kind of celebrating today is UN International Day of Peace. And I kind of thought this was, you know, it doesn't have a dove, but it does kind of made me think of peace, just the colors. So the inspiration list included dove, white, pearls, leaves, non-rectangular shaped card, feather, rainbow, die cut, paper folding, and spritzing. So I had to use 3 items, and so I've used white, die cut, and then pearls, which I have colored using the Fresh Freesia blends. All right, lots of talking. Let's actually get on to making the card. So I've got my supplies here. I've got a piece of thick basic white cardstock. Now I like to, get this going the right way. I like to just score my piece when I'm using the, particularly the thick basic white or very vanilla cardstock. I like to score my middle to when I make my card base. It doesn't fold as nicely without the score. And so just by scoring it and then using your bone folder, you get a really nice crisp fold. Oopsie, my camera slipped out of its holder. Gosh. Okay, there we go. Sorry about that. Okay, so that's my card base. So this is 4 1/4 by 11, folded in half or scored at 5 1/2 and then folded in half. I have got a piece of, this is fresh freesia, and I've already gone ahead and cut it out using the largest of the scallop contour dies. And I didn't show you these dies. Again, they're all messed up here because I use them so often. So this coordinates with the color and contour stamp set. So you have the dies to cut out the stamps, as well as this great scalloped edge die. And then you have 5 different scalloped rectangles, all slightly different in that they have, one has little cutout dots, one has lines that are cut, and then large stitch lines. This is kind of regular little dot stitch lines. And then this one that I've cut out using, it has the open scallop. That's, I think, my go-to set of dies these days. So I'm just going to poke out the holes. That. There we go. Okay, there we go. All right, so this will go on like this, and I can take my Stampin' Seal and adhere this to my card base like that. Try to get it even. That. Okay, now I'm going to take my stamp. And as I said, I find it really hard to use the largest size block. So I'm going to bring in my Stamparatus in. And I've got a piece of basic white cardstock that is cut 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. So this is a 1/4 sheet of cardstock. And I'm just going to, actually I need to move this a little bit. I'm really just going to lay this, kind of put it in the middle, put one of the magnets on it, just in the corner because there really isn't much room to have a magnet. And then, oopsie, that needs to go like that. So I'm just going to lay this on. I'm going to cut this out anyway, so I really just want to get it so it's roughly in the middle of it. And then I'm going to press down. Oops, I've got it going the wrong way. That was clever. Never done that before. All right, let's do this again. I knew that didn't look right when I was doing it. Gosh. All right, here we go. Lay it down like that. Now it'll work much better. All right, now it'll stick to this side. A momentary lapse there. All right, so now I can take and use the fresh freesia ink, and I'm just gonna use the stamp pad directly onto the stamp like this. As I said, it just makes it easier not to have to hang on to a really big block. And now you can just take and press. One of the things that I made for myself, I don't know, I think a friend of mine showed me this. I just made this. This is just a bottle I bought at the dollar store. And then I got a piece of the felt. These are intended to go underneath furniture to stop them scraping your floors. And I just stuck that to the top. And you can take that and just use it. It just is easier than trying to use your hands. Some people find it really hard, and it just helps to make sure that you get your ink spread. Oh, that didn't work at all. So one of the amazing things about the Stamparatus is because your stamp is in exactly the right space, if you find that you've got some spots that aren't inking up properly, you can re-ink your stamp and put it down and then go over it. Or if you just haven't, if you've missed a spot, sometimes on these really big stamps, it's easy to miss a spot. Not sure why that's, let's press that down really well, right? There we go. Seem to just not be pressing hard enough in some spots for some reason. All right, so that's the advantage of using the Stamparatus. You can kind of keep going over these until you get it. There we go. Okay, so now I've got my stamp. Take that off. We'll clean up that in a minute. Behind me. All right, so now I'm going to take my second largest stamp scalloped contour, and I'm going to just figure out where I want. I think I'll do it like that, and I'm just going to cut this out over here. Got my Stampin' Cut and Emboss machine just off to the side, so I don't have to bring it in and shake the table and the camera. All right, there we go. Just use a little bit of tear and tape or Post-it note tape. That's what it's. Okay, so there's my stamp that I've cut out. And now I'm just going to take some dimensionals and adhere this. So if you wanted to, you could actually do some coloring on this just to add some other colors to it, but I think I'm just going to leave it as it is and just go with the fresh freesia. It's just such a pretty color. That. All right, and then this just can go here in the middle. Like that. Okay, so now we've pretty much got our card base done. The one thing we do need to do is I got a scrap of basic white cardstock. Let's put this away. And now I'm going to take and just cut this. Actually, there's a better one. It's a little cleaner. Okay, I'm just going to bring in my mini machine. So I'm going to cut the smallest of the tag dies from the TaylorMade and run that through. This is my mini Stampin' Cut and Emboss machine. There we go. Put this back in its envelope so I don't lose it. All right, so now I've got my tag. Let's put it this way. And I'm going to stamp the thanks stamp. Now, what did I use for that? I use the thanks from the hand-penned stamp set. So this is the thanks. I've used this so much. So we're just going to take that, put it on a block. Oopsie. I really need to clean this. I've used these stamps so much that I'm finding they're not sticking very well. And so if you find that with a photopolymer where they're not sticking very well, you can just take them and wash them with some dish soap, like Dove, or Dove in particular works really well because it takes away the grease. And it just will clean them up. And I really need to do that with my stamps because I've used them so much that they just get the oil from your hands on them, and then they stop sticking to your blocks. Okay, so now how did I make that? This is the kind of bow ribbon on the end. Well, what I did was I took this is the open weave ribbon, in fresh freesia. And I've cut, it's about, this is probably more than you need, about 5 inches. And I'm just going to take my paper snips and I'm just going to cut this ribbon in half down the open weave part. There we go. And then I'm just going to put the 2 pieces together and put them through the hole in my tag. If I can. There we go. Like that. Now, if I had any, so now it's got 4 pieces. So just, you could do it just with a plain piece of ribbon. But this is just kind of nicer with the four pieces. Now, if I had some of the basic white twine left, I would use it, but I don't. So I'm going to just take a piece of ribbon and tie it around to hold those in place. But before I do, I'm going to adhere this on to my card base. I just find having it adhered before you tie it just helps to hold it in place. Sometimes it's just hard to hold it and hold the pieces in place. So I'm just going to put that down at the bottom like that. And then this piece of ribbon or twine, if you have it, you can just take and wrap around these 4 pieces and just tie a single knot like that. And tie it tight. There we go. And then you can trim off because you probably don't want all of that ribbon. I'll just shorten the tails. And then also I'm just going to shorten these tails a little bit. You can trim it to whatever length you want. There's another one. Oopsie. There we go. So it's just gives a little bit of detail on the tail. Now the last part of this that I did was I've got some of the pearl, and I'm going to take my dark Stampin' blend, and I'm just going to color these pearls. So because these are alcohol markers, they work really well. You can color your rhinestones, you can color your pearls, you can color ribbon. They work really well. So I'm just going to take, and I've colored 5, because I like to use odd numbers, and I'm just going to put 1, 2 on the label, and then the other 3 kind of random on the card. And maybe down here. There we go. You can put more if you want. I tend to always go in odd numbers, so 3 typically, but this one just felt like 5 was the right number. All right, let's put the cap on that. Okay, so that's your card. You can stamp on the inside if you want, but I've just left it blank. So I did it a little darker on this one than on this one. That was because I kept having to go over to this one because I wasn't pressing hard enough in places. So pretty much the same card. So I hope you enjoyed that. Let's go back over here. So yeah, so I love background stamps, and you can use them to color, you can use them just as a background, you can use them as just a background and put other things on top of it. It just gives a little bit of texture and detail to your card. Lots of ways to use them. And this particular one, the Daisy Garden, I just love it. It's so pretty. So I hope you enjoyed that. As I said, thank you so much for joining me. If you haven't subscribed yet, please take the time to subscribe. There is a box right underneath the video, and you can subscribe, and then you'll get notified when I post upcoming videos or when I go live, which I will be doing on a regular basis. So thanks everybody for joining me. If you do have questions when you're making the card, just leave a comment and I'm happy to answer them. I will put a link to my blog post, which has all of the written instructions and measurements for my card. And so if you didn't catch it as I was going through the video, you can go pop over to my blog and get all of the written instructions and also the supply list for my card. So thanks everybody for joining me. Happy stamping.